Chris is scheduling an impromptu video interview. I have no idea what he's about to
Chris
get
and Dan
into.
show.
All right, perfect.
So
What is it?
this is just economics for us.
Gotcha.
Not economics 101, just in our situation. So a few things. So Dan and I are looking to buy a rental property in Texas, right? So I just came
Yes.
upon some interesting information. They're building, you're somewhat familiar with the area, right, Dan? You know where Frisco is?
Yes. Yeah, I've studied Dallas now to where
You're
I know
familiar.
where the like major parts are. Yep.
Okay. So Frisco, Universal just purchased 2,600 acres in Frisco. They're going to start building a Universal Studios there next year.
Ah, I did not know that.
I didn't either. Just came
Who
along
told
this,
you that?
huh?
Who told you that?
My sister sent me an article because she's down there right now looking to buy property, and she asked with the article. She was like, "If we buy a house in this area, will this increase or decrease the property value?" I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting question. We could address that, right, on a video."
It's gotta increase it.
I think what I told her was, I think if you're within walking distance, I think it would decrease if it's a residential area.
Nah.
Because of all the traffic, foot traffic, people aren't going to like that. I wouldn't want to live with that. But I said if you're a 10-minute drive or more away, maybe even 5-minute drive or more away, I think it increases up to a half an hour. Then I don't think it matters.
And if it's an Airbnb rental,
Airbnb, sure, but I'm talking your personal house. She was asking buying a house for herself, right?
yeah, I think it increases it regardless. It's a more desirable location.
What?
Now they're not gonna just build that and not plan for traffic and street lights and all that stuff. So
I'm not familiar with Frisco, how open it
then
is.
again, it is Texas where they don't like regulation too much, so they
Yeah,
might just do that.
yeah.
There's not a like not all regulations bad, you know?
Uh,
Not all
depends.
regulations bad. Look, this book is living proof. Trying to get this guy on our show. Europe does not allow atrazine on its crops.
Sure.
And because of that, they don't have as many, at least when it comes to their food sources, endocrine disruptors.
Okay, so
California, uh, they have what is it that Texas like the foundational cracks you were saying the other day? Well, this is Texas. They're not home buyer friendly. They're land seller friendly or
right.
something. I mean, it's kind of buyer beware in those cases. Then, like, you got to pay more attention in the less regulated places. But at a macro overview, I think this is a net positive for that area.
Okay, so here's where I differentiate from what you're saying.
Hmm.
Let's take Paris, for example. I've never been, but I've talked to many people who have. And they said the Eiffel Tower has like 2-foot fences to protect you from the edge, right? So you could easily jump off if you wanted to.
Right.
I've never been, so I don't know. But here in America, because of lawsuits, they make sure that there's prevention in place. So where you're right, regulations put a state in as kind of the middleman in between consumer and producer.
Dangers.
Right. But we have lawsuits as well, right? So whereas in Paris, there are no lawsuits, right? You won't be sued. They won't. Somebody told me, I don't remember who it was, but they told me that if somebody jumps off the Paris building and the family wants to sue, or your child falls off of the Eiffel Tower, there is no lawsuit. You can't sue for that. Whereas in America, that happened. Oh, you better bet you'd get like $5 million if your child fell off because there was no protection in place. So
Sure.
that's where, yes, there's regulations in place in Europe, but they don't allow lawsuits. Where, conversely here, your protection is you can sue. And the companies are aware of this, so they're forced to put regulations in place. I prefer that. I honestly do. I don't want the government involved. I'd prefer you just have lawsuits. And
Even if
them into submission.
someone's kid died because they
Yep.
fell off.
Yep, prefer it. So
Brutal. And send all hate mail to Chris, guys.
so Thomas Jefferson says he prefers dangerous freedom over I don't remember the other part of the expression, but basically slavery on your knees to the state.
Yeah.
And I
There's
prefer I'll
there's an
take
argument for that. There's argument for that. There's also argument for uncontrolled corporate greed, which can get carried away here and now everywhere. But I mean, there's something to be said about that. Not to get too AOC on that ass.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think corporations now control the government entirely.
Yes, and that revolving door between, especially in our industry, between big pharma, regulators, NIH, consultants, and back and forth
Mhm.
is problems. And it's one of the reasons why atrazine is still sprayed on our crops, whereas in Europe it is banned.
And there's lawsuits forthcoming, I'm sure.
Leave it at that. But at Frisco, I would say yes. Like I think it's a net positive. Well, you don't want to be right next to the park.
Well,
You probably
so
can't even buy next to the park. It's probably all commercial around it.
yeah, you don't want to. At least I don't want to. I think you want to be at least 10 minutes away. But the reason I'm asking is because
So if I Google this, will I get a positive response?
I haven't done that yet, but I assume so. Like I said, my sister forwarded me an article. So if I
Oh,
don't
theme park, Frisco, Texas. Universal Parks and Resorts plans to bring new concept for families with young children to Frisco. So it may not be Universal Studios. Universal Parks and Resorts announced a one-of-a-kind theme park, unlike any other in the world, specifically designed to inspire fun for families with young children. The new park concept set in a lush green landscape and featuring immersive themed lands celebrates Universal's iconic brand of entertainment, humor, and innovation. The proposed park will be designed to be more intimate and engaging for younger audiences and will be sized for a regional audience. So it's a logo thing. It's gonna be like Legoland. Although smaller in size, it will still carry the same quality as Universal's other large resort destinations. So just like Legoland did not affect the property prices in Carlsbad, matter of fact, probably increased it. Frisco in north of Texas as the area for this new concept, given the city's growing population and ability to attract businesses to the area.
So here's the article. It's
Yeah.
really it's shorter than what you're reading. So I'll read what my sister sent me. Universal Parks and Resorts is building its newest theme park in Frisco on a piece of land that is part of a 2,500 acre development that will include the PGA of America headquarters,
Good.
two golf courses, a campus of the University of North Texas, and thousands of new homes.
So I'm mad why our realtor did not suggest Frisco when I've asked like 3 times for growth. We're looking for growth trends.
Well, the thing is Frisco is not too far from the place she is recommending, which is Aubrey.
Okay.
It's, I think, no more than 20-minute drive away. I mean, I'm going to Google these things,
But can we not still buy in Frisco at our price point?
probably, I don't know. It depends on how much word's gotten out on this, because I agree. I think it will increase property values so long as you're not across the street from it. I just
I don't think word's gotten out because this is gonna be like a local thing, just for
Yeah.
Dallas people. Regional. It said regional. So people
But-
from driving distance to Dallas. It's not gonna be a destination for people to fly to Dallas to go to. It'll
Sure.
just be regional travelers.
So, but what I think it does do is, so Frisco is about, I think, 40 minutes north of Dallas.
Northeast, yeah.
So I think, if you're, say, within an hour north of Dallas, I think your property values go up.
Oh no, I don't think I think you're thinking it's like Disneyland. I don't think it's that big of a radius that this will impact.
Well, it's 2,500
I would
square.
agree with you if it was like Disneyland.
Well, it's 2,500 acres. It will have a theme park of sorts. At least that's what the article my sister sent me said.
It's like saying that people's properties in Oceanside are higher because of or San Clemente are higher because of Legoland. Like, I don't think they're related.
I don't know where Legoland is in comparison. So do you think okay, Legoland I think that's less of a comparison because there's going to be a university there. There's going to be two PGA golf courses there, and the PGA will have a headquarters there.
Right. Well,
Um,
plus everything Texas is bigger because they have more space.
yeah.
Um,
But let's take that example,
oh yeah,
Lego.
Frisco's just directly north of Dallas. Plano's northeast. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be an hour though. It's not that significant, I don't think. I think you have to be in that area from Plano.
So you don't think Aubrey, because it's going
Aubrey's like a little, no, I think Prosper and Selena more likely than Aubrey to benefit from this.
but Aubrey is going to be what, 20-minute drive from Frisco now, right? So it is.
If there's roads, there's the 377 and the 380, but the Aubrey and Selena are the same distance, just up to 289,
Yeah, Aubrey's 37 minutes drive.
whereas Prosper or Selena are a little closer.
Selena's 24 minutes.
But it's a straight shot down.
Yeah, 24 minutes. So
Hmm.
it's definitely closer.
We'd have to ask the local, this is where the agents make their money.
And Prosper's 13 minutes from downtown Frisco.
But if she said Aubrey, then Aubrey.
Or McKinney. McKinney, she says nice too.
McKinney.
19 minutes from Frisco.
Yeah, I see it here. Yeah, that would make more sense. Plus, it's closer to Plano.
And Dallas.
Yeah. See, I'd be more just because I know Plano is desirable. From what I know about Dallas, which is not that much, Plano is the desirable area, from what I understand.
Right.
And so if you're just around Plano, like closer to it, you're better, even if you don't take this new project into consideration. But if you do, then it doubles that. So yeah, McKinney becomes probably more desirable than either Prosper, Selena, or Aubrey.
Yeah.
If we can get McKinney.
Yeah. So did you get a chance to look at the email back and forth between Shelby and I?
Today, nothing. I've only checked the emails for like our work stuff, but nothing for
No,
real estate.
no. The one that I generated like 3 days ago.
Probably.
Did you get a chance to look at it? Basically everything she's sending us, we're not cash flow positive on.
I saw that, yeah. Even if we put down 100K,
150.
yeah, that's not gonna be doable.
Well, so my question to you is, because this is assuming a 7.5% interest rate, right, on the loan.
Yeah.
Now, if the loan falls to 4% again, obviously it becomes very cash flow positive.
Yeah, but it won't. Not anytime soon.
I don't know if I agree with that. I know you have people telling you otherwise, but the federal government's really in a corner on what they're going to do. I mean, it's quite possible they don't lower interest rates, but the problem is they don't. They can't maintain their debt.
Well, we can't assume. We have to assume it's going to stay the way it is. We can't make investment decisions based off of maybe it'll drop significantly.
Agreed.
Well, it's
But
almost dropped in half.
right. So, well, would you be opposed to $100 negative cash flow? Is basically what I wanted to ask you, because a lot of them are $100 negative cash flow. I mean, I don't necessarily think we need to purchase now, but I mean, we had a conversation back and forth on what, like 10 properties all over the place in north of Dallas. northeast, northwest, and north.
Yeah.
And only one of them is positive cash flow, and it's the cheapest one. It's a 300K house.
Where is it
2000
in McKinney?
uh Watanagu, one Watanuga. Watanugu, Uga, I don't know. Watanuga,
Yeah, you've already failed it like so many times, so we'll figure it out.
Watanuga.
In the comments, they'll figure it out for us, but
Yeah, they can make fun of me all they like. Anyhow,
uh,
sounds like an Indian name of sorts. So it's a 300K home. She says that it will rent for 2,000 a month and rent quickly. Actually, no, she didn't say it'll rent quickly, just 2,000 a month. And our payment would be about 1,700 a month. Our mortgage, all things included.
I see. I would say it depends on where that actually is in relation to Plano and this new project.
It's close because I told her everything needed to be close to Plano.
Oh, okay, okay. Then I'd be okay with it. That's better than being cash flow negative. And this is these
Casey's
are the rates that we're if we could be cash flow positive at these rates and rates do go lower, like you say, eventually, we'll be great. And if we could lock it in and they go higher, we're great. Um, Going cash flow negative and then something happens to the house and you got to pay more, you still have the same issue. You can always refi, but if the rates do go higher, you just end up, I guess if rates go higher, rents go higher. So eventually you'll be cash flow neutral within a year or two.
right.
So I'm not opposed to 100 negative, but I'm better off if we're like 300 positive.
So my thoughts on the 100 negative is the rents are much higher. Like if you take it, for example, this house for 415,000, so 115,000 more.
Hmm.
She says it will rent for 2,800, if not more, right?
Yeah.
But the mortgage, all things included, would be well, she says that the property taxes would be lower because it's over assessed value. So if it's sold for 415 and it's assessed at 470, mortgage would you'd probably lose 200 a month on the house, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is at 2,800 a month in rent, if you substantially drop the interest rate, now your mortgage is like at $2,000 or 2,200, you're making a lot more cash.
Right.
So there's that in mind as well. Whereas if you buy the other house, interest rates drop substantially. It's not going to drop your payment nearly as much. You're not financing as much. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, if 100, I guess thinking it through, 100 a month is a temporary
Problem.
problem that rents typically go up.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So I know you only have a few minutes left here. So kind of in this vein, what do you think the best investments are when everything's so uncertain economically?
Well, I think personally, like if you and I are investing personally, we can take more risk. Like you and I are both heavy in crypto. I wouldn't be comfortable being heavy in crypto on our company profits. So I think real estate's the foolproof place to put it. Um,
So is there any situation in which you
I
could,
think even for my personal, it's like real estate. If you can get a cash flow positive at these rates,
okay. What
just
about,
long term. Long term, I don't think you can go wrong with it.
so you weren't on this call Joey and I had, so let me run this by you, see what you think. I don't know if I had this conversation with Shelby just recently, so I don't know if you saw the email, you were copied on it, but there's only two places and two companies, at least as far as Joey found, and that's what he conveyed to me, that will rent to landlords in Texas. In all of Texas, there's two companies, two insurance companies, right? Again, I didn't verify this, but we both know Joey, and that's what he had told me. So I told Joey, you know, very conspiratorial here, but what if the WEF and their statement of you'll own nothing and like it is being implemented, right? What's one way to get everybody out of their house? You don't offer insurance.
Sure. I mean, you're reaching, but it's good for a podcast.
Okay, I'm sure I'm reaching conspiratorial,
Right.
but what way do you guarantee that
Do you
homeowners?
have an address on one of these? I could look it up on my Lemonade app. This is not sponsored by Lemonade, but would love to if we were.
Sure. So let me complete my thought. How do you make it so whereas at least you have some deniability if you say just we're doing this just to landlords. We don't want to offer insurance solutions to landlords. So they remove all options for landlords, right?
Okay.
Requiring insurance. That means if you want to be a landlord, you have to purchase the house or property cash, right? Because then you don't have to carry insurance.
Okay.
I don't see why that's that conspiratorial. If there's only two companies as is offering insurance in Texas.
I don't think that's true. I'm
Okay.
gonna log into Lemonade right now and see.
Okay, 6,400.
Hold on. I need to get my security code.
Anyhow, that's all that was the explanation I offered Joey. I said, you know, BlackRock, they don't have to have insurance. They either already own the insurance companies.
I think too much is made with this BlackRock and all this stuff. Like in that case, like
Oh,
why invest in anything? Why live anymore? Let's just kill ourselves and
so here's an interesting fact you may not know that I just learned the other day.
hold on. Give me the address first. Let's like
Well, no, let me finish my thoughts.
okay, go ahead.
There's three companies in the world that own 20% of all major corporations. The top 500 corporations in the world, they own 20% or more of each of them. There's three companies.
Right.
So I don't think it's too far fetched in terms of being concerned about BlackRock, because what these companies do is
Right. And
they vote who's on the board.
since
They
before Rockefeller's time, 1% of the population controlled like 90% of the world's wealth. So what? Generations came and passed on their wealth to future generations. Are you telling me that we're hopeless? Like, that's nonsense. I think all this stuff is like way overblown, and I'm on Twitter a lot and I read a lot of this stuff too.
Hmm.
People like doom and gloom. It's like gives dopamine hits.
All right.
I mean, for the show, it's good. For investment decisions, like when you're a professional and you have money, like you can't give it too much cred.
You
In
could,
that case, like why not just hang ourselves and that's it?
well, that's being ridiculous.
But I mean, do you have an address? I could probably let me see if I could get one.
Sure, it's 6,400.
Shoot, if this actually ends up being our house, it's good though. All right.
6,400 Storm Drive.
Storm?
Yeah, like a winter storm.
Watauga, Texas. I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Okay, the AI is chatting with me. It says, awesome. Are you closing on a new home or just thinking of switching? Let me just put let me put closing on a new home. I'm closing on a new home.
That's going to give you different
What
results.
type of property is it? It's a house.
Well, hopefully ask for an investment because it's not.
It will. It will. I've done this. It's a single family house. Is it your primary residence? No. So what is it used for? I ran it out. Let's see. Let's talk about your floors and countertops. Hold on. Just bear with us, guys. This will help us estimate let's just put, I don't know, what is it? Carpet. Done. What kind of flooring do you have in your home? Carpet. And what kinds of countertops do you have? Well, let's just put tile. Okay. Bear with us, guys. Did this house undergo any substantial renovation? I don't know. Next. AI is still, is it a gated community? I have no idea. Let's put no. And okay, we finished gathering your home details. Let's make sure everything is right. Let's do it. It's gonna let me know right now if it's insurable or not and if they can do it. Oh, they want general details. Okay, it pulled up your built square feet, 2-car, 1-story. It put it all there, so it knows. I put looks good. And then it puts concrete slab, brick veneer, masonry, slope, none. Looks good. AI is a hell of a thing, guys. This is the future. Great. Now let's review your roof. 39 years old. Looks good. Lemonade would love to get it sponsored by you guys too. Do
39
you have
years
any of this?
Don't need a new roof. Roof lasts no more than 50 years.
Let's say we have a fire alarm, deadbolts, and let's go with that. Do you have any other safety devices installed? Smoke alarm, sprinkler system? Hell if I know. Well, I'm just trying to see if it's insurable or not, because we've got Chris telling me it's
That's what
it's
Joey's
not.
telling me. I'm not the one telling you.
Do you have a plan to get a mortgage or loan on this property? Yes. Did you or anyone you live with file for any claims in the past years? None. It'll get there. It'll get there. And no, I don't believe that the WEF, I think the insurers, and there's plenty of small businesses out there that will insure you, and startups that will insure you that are not part of the WEF's agenda that will do it. So I don't think that's the conspiracy theory to get people to not own anything and be happy. And I also looked into that more, and what they actually meant was that was in 2016. They were more talking about we're living in a Uber type of world where, I mean, the pandemic kind of killed this, but you didn't really need a car in certain cities, like in San Fran, for example, where you can just walk places or take a Uber like really quick. You don't need a car. And I could see that in like a place like San Fran, New York,
Why would they say you will own nothing opposed to you will not own a
because
car?
they're trying to make a point to get people to read it. Like it's in a way it has to be shocking. Uber changed the paradigm on the economies to where we're renting things on demand, like entertainment. We don't own DVDs. We have Netflix. This didn't work out, but you don't, and in big cities it does work. You don't need to own a car. You can have Uber. You don't need a house. You just rent. Like those are the things they're talking about. But these doom and gloomers take it a step further because of the pandemic. Everybody got negative, and rightfully so. And they point to this, and I don't necessarily agree with all of this stuff. But hold on, and definitely not enough to come like change my investment mentality.
Sure.
I'm still answering AI questions while I put filler in here.
Questions. So, and you could absolutely be right. I'm not going to deny that
I think you need to be on Twitter because like you're getting the like the news links and stuff, and you send me a lot of this stuff too. And like, but it's good to see both sides. And then there's a lot of moderates that kind of get you through. Okay, it seems like we hit a snag. We do not cover properties that are rented out. Unfortunately, that means, oh, that's true. With Lemonade, I only have my guest home, my primary and my vacation home with Lemonade. With my I have another insurance provider, but it's not going to be this convenient to do it. Like I would have to call them and find out. But point is, I don't believe, yeah, Lemonade will only do it. I use Hippo. Hippo is for my rental in Orange County. Um, But yeah, I don't believe in that as conspiracy. I think there's always a startup willing to take a risk.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you, I think it becomes much more plausible if there's only two companies in all of Texas that will rent to landlords.
Yeah, we gotta look in the Hippo and Shelby sent us one, I believe, no?
Yeah, she did, and I asked her to please do check, or I told her
Yeah.
I would call this week too.
Yeah, so something tells me that's just not right because then Texas is full of investors. There's no way people are buying investments in Texas without having their properties insured.
No, completely agree. But it still doesn't dismiss my point. If there is only two,
And they turn it off.
no, if there was only two, I would lend more credit to that conspiratorial
Oh,
thought
I see, I
being
see.
more valid.
Joey probably meant there's only two that he knows of.
Yeah, sure, could have. He said there's only two. He did not say he knows of.
Yeah, I
Brokerage.
know Joey well enough. He does exaggerate.
Okay, fair enough.
But no, long answer or short answer is no. I don't think this is
Oh,
part of the WEF
no
forum to
doubt,
get me and you from buying a house.
no doubt. But so where I disagree with your negativity, people are just more negative now. I think, in
There's more
my,
doom and gloom.
I think rightfully so with things like ESG and things of that nature, which are being implemented. I mean, why does Budweiser not care if they lose 20 billion and Target doesn't care if they lose 30 billion? Because ESG is promising them money to do so, and it's fairly well outlined.
Right, right. But our economy is built in a way to where there's always a startup, there's always somebody new, there's always somebody willing to take on more risk. And yes, they get acquired and then they get wrapped into the whole ESG bullshit, or they go public and they go big, but there's always choice. There's always a choice in
Well,
our country. And until that changes, which would have to be a radical shift in our economic policy here at home domestically for that to actually happen. There's
well,
always a choice. Even in a small town, underserved town like Yuma,
sure.
like this is basically 80% controlled by a large medical system. There's still private practice practitioners taking private insurance, taking Medicare. There's always a choice. And
I
until that changes,
you
I'm not worried.
you unfortunately do not have enough time for this conversation because I have all kinds of information and
I know you do, man.
on how I I just think there's things in place that would.
You know what? I read a tweet. Please get on Twitter, Chris. Can you
Mhm.
just do that for me?
Well, okay, real quick. Here's the simple
It's
way.
owned by a non-globalist.
Okay, France. Did you even know? I didn't know what was going on in France until this weekend. Did you?
This weekend I knew because of Twitter.
Yeah, but you didn't until then, right? And it started a few days prior.
Right. It started. I heard noise on Twitter. I just thought it was isolated. I didn't realize it's the entire country until this weekend.
Okay, so I believe that to be intentional,
It
right?
very well might be.
And and what are the most powerful countries of the world? They're all in the West, right? So I do think there's a certain amount of intentionality to what is going on.
Sure, but and there always has been from. I mean, in recent history, you had the Rothschilds orchestrating both sides of the war, both wars. You've had the Rothschilds orchestrating the implementation of the Federal Reserve. Are you telling me that people haven't been able to get wealthy during those times and live good lives?
So I think you're thinking of it in different terms, right? Um, you're thinking of it in terms of investing. No, absolutely. There's always been opportunities to make money for those in a position to do so. And that doesn't necessarily mean rich and powerful. Okay. Anybody with some motivation and maybe a little bit of cash can always better themselves at any point in time. Don't disagree. Unless you're like a Jew in Germany in World War II, right? That
Yeah.
situations like that.
This is a good topic, though.
But what I'm saying is it has nothing to do with that. Literally nothing to do with that. I think what's going on right now is a way to change the governments of the world.
But Chris, what difference is that than the Federal Reserve in 1919?
What's the difference? So
That was a huge paradigm shift back then. There was probably
ask your dad what
people.
the difference. So Dan, ask your dad what the difference is.
That's my dad,
Yeah, he came from a country of communism in which
right?
you're not allowed to advance unless they let you. So you ask him what the difference is. See, you seem to get agitated with this kind of conversation when I think
I'm
that
not agitated. I just
well,
think people. I think you're agitated. Your ass need to get on Twitter.
no, I think the evidence is very easily found, right? It's if you implement a dictatorial or communist society, I think it's very problematic for most individuals. Unlike and I agree with you,
Right.
you were
But I
there,
also think it's easy to doom and gloom every piece of news that's out there and make it fit a narrative. Like, I agree, it's a dangerous precedent to give government more control than what we have. But how is this different than when the Federal Reserve took control of the banking system of the entire world in 1919, or when the Rothschild orchestrated both sides of World War One and World War Two and literally put people's lives, not put, sacrificed people in the sake of power. Like, how is this any different? My whole point is people have managed throughout the centuries to live good lives, to create wealth, to have freedom. I don't see that changing just because there's some articles that say it's a potential. Anything's a potential.
so I
There's a
disagree.
difference between a potential and something actually happening.
I think you're comparing apples to oranges, honestly. 1919, yes, very bad in terms of the banking system. The difference, though, is cultural, right? The cultures back then were very, can't think of the word I'm looking for, but nationalistic, that's not exactly the right word, but populist maybe. They had more identity with their system of government, their society, right? So they were more concerned about those things than will I be rich, right? So if you went to an American in 1930 and say, hey, burn your flag or disown America, they would have shot you, right? They would have taken out their shotgun and
Yeah,
shot
that's it. This
you.
person's a lunatic. Yeah.
That's not the way it is now, just because of how much influence there is in culture now. And I think it's a gradual shift.
Right. Society's shifting, but I mean,
Yeah.
society's rarely the same. We went from tribes to cities to countries, now to regions. We had NATO, and I mean, it's not going to be the same. Eventually, we'll be interplanetary if you let it play out long enough. Like,
Possibly, but I just think the differences are very substantial that you even look back a couple decades, 20 years, how things have changed so drastically throughout the entire country, if not the entire world.
I really think you and Dr. Joe belong on Twitter. I keep telling both of you guys,
Sure.
and you both refuse.
I don't
Um,
use, I want to support Elon Musk.
yeah, I had to pay for it. I paid for it this weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's worth it.
$8.
I paid for the year.
Okay,
It's like
so
111. American declinists. Here's a tweet. American declinists fall into two groups. This is from a venture capital from the All In podcast. And you could disagree with them all you want. And there are people in the comments. That's why I think it's a good topic. Well, number one is smart folks suffering from anxiety who are super high functioning, but they doom scroll too much. And number two, lazy and entitled virtue signalers whose boomer parents have coddled them enough to enable their luxury beliefs. So, but then some people in the comments are like, hey, some of us are watching it fall apart from the front lines, amigo. Quiet quitting has turned into loud quitting. It's going to get real interesting here in a few months. Somebody else said, you boys are in early 50s, late 40s, had incredible timing that have happened and got a chance to play and win, which you did, but it would be naive to say things are going well. Why aren't things going well? Based on on numerically reproduction rates, home ownership, both declining. The contra argument is US population still growing, and we have a massive backlog of hardworking immigrants willing to take one of the 10 million open jobs. Remote work allowing unlimited. This doesn't end. We're not going to solve this in our podcast.
No,
But there's somewhere in the middle is correct. Like always.
possibly.
Doom and gloom is just Chris. The like business of media, online media now is like attract clicks, get people to share, make it as sensational as possible, but still plausible enough to where people think it's like legitimate. And this happened on both sides.
I see. I just don't know if I agree with that, and I'll tell you why.
But you don't have to. That's
No,
just the way I see it. Who knows who's right?
I completely agree. And the reason is because I used to be on the other side of this, more further on your side than I am on the side I am now. And that's just because I just, one, I didn't watch enough or read enough, right? Which you're saying
Yeah.
that's the problem, and it could be. I don't deny that. Very well could be. But you take, for example, let's just take somebody I still consider a little crazy, and that's Alex Jones,
His
right?
book is great.
But somebody sent a video of his last night. I don't remember who. I think it was Dr. Joe. Or
Yeah,
you.
with the PBD. I watched the whole thing, all 3 hours.
So I used to think Alex Jones was absolutely nuts, right?
And he still is.
But then over the 5 or so years I've somewhat followed him, it's like, okay, this crazy thing I thought that he was saying was absolutely out, out of right field, left field, out of the
Yeah.
stadium,
Yeah.
has come true. It's like, and it's more and more that's happening.
A
So
good amount. I would say more than 50% of his wild claims, if given enough time, come true. I've said that since the beginning.
I would say it's actually more than that. I'd say 75, honestly.
Well, who knows the number? The
Sure.
point is, I'm never in denial that the people controlling the world or trying to control the world continuously try to get more control over it.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it's going to happen. And just the fact that we're talking about it and YouTube is censoring less and people are waking up to this
Oh,
shows me that the tides are turning.
that's definitely a problem for anybody trying to sneakily do something, right?
Yeah, and I think they pushed a little too far. And if they're smart, they're going to let it reel back in. And that might mean a soft landing instead of what should be like a Great Depression part two. And put their plans on hold for another couple decades. And by that point, you'll be what, in your 70s or 80s? I'll be 60, and then they'll try again. But then it's like a new generation, and maybe they're a little lazier, or maybe like there's another power grab, and now China. This stuff is just, we can't make our personal decisions based off of this stuff.
Don't disagree. Don't disagree with that at all.
Thank you.
Um, the one thing you said that I kind of do disagree with, but it has nothing to do with necessarily personal decisions, is the soft or hard landing. I think, and this is not conspiratorial because it's all out there, but I think the, at least the United States government's in a really bad way in terms of soft or hard landing. I don't think there's any option for a hard landing in the next 2 years because the rate,
Yeah.
again, the fact that they have to pay right now, they're only paying like 1% on bonds or 2%. I can't remember the
Yeah.
number, but it's really low, right?
Yeah.
It's going to go up in 6 months to 6%
But why though? If we're still the global currency,
because that's what they guaranteed, right? Whatever the rate is at that time, that's what they will pay.
right?
That's,
But as long as we're the global currency and global superpower, it can just keep printing for the
yeah.
next 100 years.
Okay, so let's say they do that, right? Let's say they continue to do that, and you said you were aware of this. So let's say BRICS comes out, and there's 30 nations that now want to join BRICS that aren't part of it, right?
Right.
and they come out with a currency that's backed by something like gold. say.
It'll be backed by gold, is what I heard.
Well, that or Bitcoin. I've read two different things. Most are saying gold, but some are
Yeah.
saying Bitcoin. So let's say it's
Right.
backed by something. So it has an absolute value, right? That could absolutely replace most countries' desire to work in the dollar.
Sure,
Because
it can.
so in turn, now you have nobody willing to buy your bonds. Because that's why they buy bonds. That's why other countries buy bonds, because they're guaranteed in their mind, right?
Right, but you still have a bunch of bond holders that is goes against their interest to have
Right.
a hard landing.
So what they do is they start working in whatever BRICS currency there is. They still hold their bonds, but now they start buying bonds from the BRICS.
Yeah, which takes decades
No, it doesn't.
for people to start feeling the ramifications of it.
No, I completely disagree with that, because what happens when nobody's buying your bonds? Your money becomes worthless, just like it's done in so many countries. There's very recent countries, Venezuela's one.
Yeah,
that
but
nobody-
Venezuela was not a global superpower.
Again,
The
though,
comparison would be the most recent comparison would be the British Empire and when the US overtook it. That took a century to accomplish and a war.
but even by your own words, things work much faster now, right?
Sure, okay, so half a century.
No, I think you're talking a year.
I
No, I
mean,
do.
that's too quick, man. I
Why?
mean, we ain't that fast.
So again, think about it. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, think in terms of a country who's willing to invest in another country or in another currency, right? Are they going to buy a currency that's exponentially decreasing in value, or a
Mhm.
currency that will maintain value for certain because it's backed by a commodity that everybody
Yeah,
buys?
but a year is crazy, man. It's gonna be like a couple
Well,
decades.
that's all it would take is a year if, say, 80% of countries that buy bonds from the United States switched over to BRICS.
It'll be a couple decades, and that's not without a war.
So you don't think it's conceivable that people find concern in buying the United States dollar and switch to BRICS at the rate of, say, 75-80%? You don't think that's
Sure,
conceivable?
but we won't feel it for a couple decades because we're gonna fight for it. And
Mm.
we're still the world superpower. And it's not gonna happen that quickly. And like you, there might be wars, but plus, even if let's say if it happens in a year, which I completely disagree with,
Mhm.
you do you have cash? No, you have like stocks. You have Tesla.
Well, you
These are
certainly don't.
those are multinational corporations. Doesn't matter what the currency is.
So that's where investments now do come into play. You don't.
Amazon.
Yeah, if that situation did arise, you don't want to hold any cash, right?
I almost don't have any cash now as it is. And
Even
I don't need to wait for BRICS to
to
become
occur.
the new global currency.
By the way, not financial advice, but obviously, if there's hyperinflation on your currency, you don't want that currency.
No, but you would want Google stock because
Yeah,
YouTube's not going anywhere.
you want stock, you want real estate,
You want Amazon. So yeah.
you could even say you want to own, and you'd want to own most everything on credit. Again,
Chris,
that
the
occurs.
bag holders across history have always paid the price for it.
Back,
Believe faith in
define
your
back.
country, faith in your country's currency, faith that the government will take care of you, have always paid the price. You need to invest, put your own resources to work, do your own due diligence. I own Google, Tesla, Amazon, a couple of pharma stocks, Eli Lilly, this is not financial advice, Bitcoin, real estate. If this hypothetical situation occurs, those things still do well. So I'm not waiting for government to take care of me.
So I agree. If that particular situation occurs, they do well. If you get another 2007-8 scenario, they don't do well. The real estate does, though. Real estate kind of just is always a reasonably good investment in terms of rentals, right?
But yeah, but those are two different things we're talking about.
But stocks, they don't do well when everything collapses like it did in 2007.
No, but that happens. That's just that's the risk of investing.
Yeah.
You're talking about paradigm shifting global currency change. That's nothing to do with markets crashing.
Though it is overdue for the US currency, right? So I think the general term for currency is 100 years, and the United States currency has not gone through this for the 200 some years it's been.
Yeah, it's due. Boils down to, what are you going to do about it? Sit there and let the government take care of you? Oh, everything's fine. Listen to the CDC and listen to everyone else. We saw that worked very well last time.
Oh, you like that, huh?
What do you want to do? Not buy a house in Texas because some schmucks on the
No,
global
when did I
list in
say
Sweden
no?
or
That's not what I ever even came close to saying.
you were
No.
getting close.
No. All I was saying is you have these different potential problems. What are the best investments to hold in these different problems if any of them should arise, right?
Like things that are things that have value.
I
The
I,
US dollar is definitely not one. It hasn't been for a long time.
I think real estate is probably the safest.
Bitcoin's the wild card. And then
Oh,
stocks.
that's
Multinational stocks. Lilly, Amazon, Google, the big ones.
though I do, again, not financial advice, I do think now's the time to be buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was actually gonna buy some more today too.
I've purchased a lot lately.
I'm building it back up. But yeah, always great talking to you, Chris. Get on Twitter, will you, man? Like, I feel like you just have too many conversations and you would blow up like overnight on Twitter. So
Yeah.
just get on there, follow me. I'll introduce you to people and then I'll point you to threads and you just have at it. Please join it by the end of today, okay? It's free.
It is. I thought you had to pay $8 or something.
No, I choose to do that, but it's free. You can use it for free.
Oh, okay.
Join it.
All right.
We'll promote this video on there.
Dan says this to me almost daily now.
Yeah, otherwise I'm the only one hearing it and probably your sister and your wife who's probably put earplugs in her ears.
Uh, depends on the topic.
Have open market for this. There's people willing to debate you, to co-sign what you're saying, to moderately push back, to
Sure.
call you names, push back, and everything in between. Get on there, it'll be fun.
It's like assholes, right?
That's right. Like, subscribe, comment, share, guys. Tell Chris to get on Twitter. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.